anything printed. So number 5 is space ads print. Number 4 is face-to-face. Number 3 is direct mail. Number 2 is word of mouth. And number 1 will be handwritten notes, thank you notes, intro notes, thinking about you notes. Thought you might like this notes, those kind of things. So we'll go over some examples for each one and stories for each one. So is your time like 1 hour today? You said you had
I can go a little over. I can go a little over. It's not a hard one.
Okay.
We are live right now on YouTube.
Cool.
So finally got that working with, had some issues with Zoom for a while there. I don't know what the problem was.
Imagine that, like tech not playing nice together.
I contacted 2 Zoom support people, and I was on chat with them for like a total of an hour trying to figure this out, and they still couldn't help me. So all of a sudden it just started working again.
Wow.
So the lesson is, if you can't get it working and no one can help you, just give it some time.
Turn it off, unplug it.
Yeah. And something weird will happen. Unplug the internet.
All right. So, all right. Well, we're starting. So this is kind of weird that it's already kind of it's kind of the behind the scenes everybody's getting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, everybody.
So we're live on YouTube and we're recording on Zoom at the same time.
Yep. Currently recording on Zoom, and we're about to start recording audio here.
Alrighty.
So we'll go 3 and 2 and 1. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Persuasion by the Pint. I'm Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool.
Sean, today we're recording day before Thanksgiving. So we're going to knock out here a couple of episodes before we jump into the Thanksgiving holiday, which is going to be a lot of food.
Yes. How many Thanksgivings are you doing? Do you have multiple or is it just one?
It's one big one tomorrow, and then lots of leftovers. And traditionally what I do is it carries on through the weekend with my wife's family, but I'm actually going, I'm going on a hunting trip over the weekend. So
it is that time of year.
It is. It is. In fact, brought up my mascot today. Yeah, this is Bucky.
So he goes on top of a hay bale normally, or
he's usually here's his neck.
Yeah,
he's usually got a body that that I shoot arrows at. So, but Bucky is not. He's got the day off today. So
okay.
He is arrow free.
Yes.
But no, what about you? What about you? You got, I think you got people coming over tomorrow.
We've got people coming over. 80, 60, 75, somewhere in the 75% of them are strangers. I have never met these people. So that'll be interesting.
All right.
So that's Thursday. And then,
so as you said previously, you'll probably be hiding out somewhere.
I could end up right back here in this chair. Very, very likely. It's a good day to get work done because nobody's on Slack. The only people emailing you are Black Friday people. So, but then Saturday we're doing Friendsgiving, which apparently is a thing that I just learned about this year. I didn't really know about Friendsgiving. So are you still there? Because you froze. I don't know if it's my end or your end. So I'm going to keep talking while Jonathan comes back. Maybe. So Friendsgiving on Saturday. Let's see if he stays on. We'll have to edit this out. Live. Can't edit live. Going to text you, Jonathan, to let you know you froze. So we'll see what happens. So I'm curious from the viewers. So there he goes.
There we go.
There you go.
Back again.
All right. So so I was saying Friendsgiving. I didn't even know this was a thing, like as an official term. And apparently it is. So we're doing Friendsgiving with the capitalism.com crew and some folks on Saturday night. So, so double the food, double the leftovers, I guess.
Double leftovers.
Yeah. So
that should work.
So
what's on the menu?
Oh man,
for leftovers.
turkey. So Tamara's making like an apple pie, right? She just actually made the apple pie, put it in the fridge, cook it tomorrow after the turkey while we're eating dinner.
Sure.
But yeah, we're doing all the things, sweet potato casserole, Paula Deen sweet potato casserole.
Ooh, man,
cornbread souffle, green bean casserole, mashed potatoes, all the goods, cranberry fluff salad, which is just basically dessert.
Okay.
Also.
Now I'm starting to get really hungry. So we better drink some beer.
Yeah. So let's move into the drinking section of the show. We need like a little, we need some sound for that, like what's the segment changing? Sure. That works.
That'll work. Yeah, we do. We need, you know what? We need a sound that like it's a cap, like popping a cap on a.
Well, that's what's at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
That's the intro.
We just need that as a, we just need that as a segment, little segment divider there. So
here, I got it.
Here we go. Let's do two at a time.
All right. Now I got to remember to pick that cap up off the floor before the dog eats it.
All right. So you first. What are you having today?
So I'm having from Boulevard Brewing Company. It's called the Sixth Glass, and it's a quadruple ale. I have no idea what a quadruple ale is, but that's what I'm drinking today. It is a 10.2% alcohol, 22 IBUs. So it seems like it's going to be very much like a, I don't know, porter or stout, but it says it's an ale, a quadruple ale, whatever that means. Any ideas there on what that means?
A quadruple.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
So it's still golden.
Sounds like just some fancy marketing to me.
Yeah. So it's golden, but it's definitely got a rich kind of gold color. So I'm not sure what it means by quadruple ale.
Let's see the bottle again. What is it? Cool. Now, where did you find this?
This was at a local liquor store here that I went to called Specs, which is kind of I think it's an Austin chain because I've seen it around town. I just haven't. It's pretty cool. You go in there, they've got the wine and the beer and the liquor and all that stuff, but then they also have like a whole 2 aisles of snacks that go with wine and beer and liquor. So they have like cheeses and chips and all kinds of stuff. So you literally can like go in there, get everything you need for the lake or the quick, pre-dinner party or whatever, like all in one spot. So it's kind of cool. Awesome. So, so I'll let you pour yours, then we'll have a simultaneous sip.
All right. So I'm having a Leinenkugel.
Leinenkugel. We were trying to figure out the accent for that because it sounds Austrian or German or something, but it's a beer from Wisconsin, so we're not. Wisconsin.
And this is Wisconsin. This is a porter. It's one of their limited edition, the Snowdrift Vanilla Porter.
So seasonal.
Definitely seasonal.
Yep.
So I've got their website pulled up. It says drift into winter with a Snowdrift Vanilla Porter, backed by popular demand.
I may have to go find that one. It looks good. Sounds good.
Yep.
So
6% ABV, not heavy, but 16 IBU. And it's only available from November through the end of January, I believe. So,
wow. It snows more than that in Wisconsin, so I'm not sure what the problem is. But all right, cheers.
All right, well, cheers.
So I'm not a fan of mine.
Okay.
It's I'm not sure what that is.
See, we're honest on the show. We'll tell you if we don't like a beer.
Yeah, I like most beers, but that one, I'll drink it. But I'm like, it's not. It's kind of got that. I don't know how to describe it. It's, it's just kind of a weird taste.
I like this one. This one's got a. You can taste a little cocoa and coffee in it.
Can you taste the vanilla?
Really heavy. Really, the vanilla is not real strong.
I've noticed that like a lot of the vanilla branded porters, you can't really taste the vanilla.
Yeah, I was almost afraid it would be a little too sweet.
Like a vanilla cream ale or something.
Right. Yeah, but it's not.
So, I don't know what I've tasted this kind of beer before, and maybe it was a previous quadruple ale or triple ale or something, but yeah, it's got a little it's got a very strong kind of pungent flavor. It's not like bitter, but it is definitely very, I don't think floral is the right word, but maybe heading that way. So, but I'll suffer through and since it is a good beer.
The question is, will you finish the whole thing during this episode?
I will finish the whole thing. I may not finish the 6-pack. That may get taken to the holiday dinner of one or the other. So,
okay.
Well, today we got some cool stuff, and I should have teased this before the beer, but I didn't because I forgot. But we did kind of tease it in one of the previous episodes. I think actually when we were talking to Mike Capuzzi with Bite-Sized Books,
right? We
were talking about 5. We said we should do a show on 5 old school persuasion and marketing techniques or tactics. Correct. So that is what we're doing today. 5 old school ideas that people have either given up on, forgotten about, but that they still work. And we've got some examples of all those things. So
these are, you won't find these if you're looking for social media. We won't be talking about social media today.
Nope. So every one of these would work before the internet existed.
Right.
So that's that old school. That's now, realistically speaking, that's about 20 years. I mean, technically, I think it's, 95 or something was probably, well, if you want to get super technical, it's been around longer than that. But for the general public, 99, 2000 is when the internet really kicked off. So these are things that still get used every day, not as much as they used to, but they all still work, and you don't need to worry about tech to make these happen. So if you're not connecting,
if the interweb ever comes to a halt,
so when the EMP
you can still use these. Yeah, exactly. I was thinking of that. The EMP device explodes.
Yeah, your business could rock on if you had some of these in just ready to go, or if you are already using them. And if not, make a list, because you won't be able to log on and listen to the podcast. So make sure you write them down on a 3x5 card. Another old school technique, right? Writing down on a 3x5 card.
Yep.
Or legal pad. Hey, do you still use legal pads when you do like sales presentations?
I do. In fact, I've got one right here in front
of me. There
you go. Staples, baby.
There's nothing like, to me, if you're doing face-to-face presentations, like a legal pad and a Sharpie. Just
best way to present.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites. Sitting down with a legal pad and with a pen, Sharpie, whatever, and running numbers.
At the corner of the table.
Yep.
They're on one corner. You're on the other or one side. You got to be at the corner, right? You don't want to be too far apart. You don't want to have to turn upside down all the time. Unless you get your kindergarten teacher reading skills where you can read upside down.
Oh yeah.
So, all right, well, let's kick it off. Let's get some transition music there to kick it off. Some transition sound. Just pick one.
Pick one?
Yeah. Sure.
That was more October. I should have used that in October, right?
Yeah, you have to reprogram those things. Need some jingle bells in there or something.
Yeah.
It's
that's a good idea. Christmas coming along. We'll have to get some some holiday music and some jingles in here.
Yeah, for sure. Nothing trademarked or copyrighted or whatever that's called.
Of course.
All right, so we're going to go from 5 to number 1. So we kind of threw these together in about 32 seconds, and we put these in a very scientifically researched list in order from 5 to 1. So number 5, and some people, by the way, are going to be underwhelmed by this list.
Yep.
And that's a shame because these are some solid techniques. So number 5 is space ads, or really we could say anything that is still in, not anything in print, but a lot of print stuff. But let's just call it space ads, because that's kind of what I was thinking of. And specifically, I'm thinking of, there's really 2 different places you can put space ads. One would be like in big national magazines, which can be really expensive. I mean, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for a 1-page ad. And then you got like a 3-month, production delay. Right. There's a lot of uncertainty around that, and it can be very expensive. If you've got a proven idea though, and a proven ad, it could still work. People are still doing it all the time. But I think where space ads live today is in trade journals.
Absolutely.
And there are, just like there's a podcast for everything, there are still print trade journals where you can get in front of a lot of the right customers.
Absolutely.
I'm sure your industry still has quite a few trade journals.
Oh, yeah. We, I use one in particular, Composites Manufacturing Magazine. And then I subscribe to a few others that are not composites related for industries that I've worked with die casting industry. I mean, and these come out usually on a monthly basis, and typically, you have to subscribe to them if you want them, but they will send them to you. Some of them have gone to digital, depending on the space that you're in. Some of them have gone to strictly digital. I've had a few that have gone, to cut back on printing costs, they've gone to like digital monthly and then print quarterly. They will send out a quarterly edition, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, you can find a trade journal just about any industry that you want to. I mean, as simple as doing a quick Google search, you can find it.
Yeah. So you will to it. Yeah. So before the EMP hits, make sure you Google trade journals for your niche. But yeah, it's your niche, trade journal, your niche, whatever that might be. And I mean, like, even if, for myself, let's say you're a copywriter, everybody else is online doing their thing, spamming LinkedIn boards and groups. If you had an ad, and I believe Bob Bly, he did this for years to build his business, before the internet.
Yeah.
If you put an ad in like Direct Marketing Association's, letter that goes out, their journal that goes out, or even, especially if you're in marketing of any kind, you could really put your services in any trade journal, because all those people have businesses that need leads and need customers. Yeah. So if you're a fan of this show, you're probably in some type of marketing or sales or whatever. And that's just something that every company needs. So trade journals space ads and trade journals are incredible. And I think if you want to learn how to write a space ad, we've reviewed a lot of books on this podcast, but I think the best one is still probably Ogilvy on Advertising, because of the number of examples of space ads that are in that book. And if you follow that format, like a nice big professional looking image with a headline, and then 250 words of copy underneath it with a call to action to go do something.
Absolutely.
And you can lead them back online if you want, or you could have them call or whatever. But that to me is just an underutilized asset for most businesses that they're not using.
Yeah.
And, if you think about the average trade journal has 5,000 to 15,000 probably readers across the country. And those trade journals tend to be really well read. Like they're kind of weighted on. It's a way to keep up with industry news, all those kind of things. You can probably, I'm just thinking back to one of my clients that I had for 5 or 6 years that I did a lot of space ads for, kind of in that world. And they pay about $2,500 for a full page ad. So you're looking at 50 cents, a lead. And if you're smart about your space ad and you try to get them to either opt in or call or get a report or anything like that, you'd be pretty on par with what it might cost you to run ads online.
Yep.
So it's not going to be free.
The the trade journals that I get on a regular basis, I look through them all the time. But the reason I'm always looking through them, I rarely read many of the articles. It's mostly skim, but I'm looking at the ads.
Yeah.
Because most of the ads in trade journals, and here's the key to it. If you're a good copywriter, Sean, and you know this, if you look at some of the space ads and some of the trade journals, they're awful.
Oh, they're terrible.
They're terrible. And they've wasted their money on methods using
They're
fancy graphics and
Yeah.
Things that
and they're
really,
very feature and spec heavy without any benefit or story.
Absolutely.
So it does not, you can literally rip off. This is what I love about space ads in most, especially in trade journals. You can rip off the oldest direct mail space ads that you can find PDFs of online that we've talked about on this show, and just tweak it for your product and do very well.
Yep, absolutely.
Because the barrier, I mean, the bar is so low. You don't have to be an A copywriter. You could be a B or C copywriter and stand out. So yeah, space ads are definitely one of my favorite things to use, old school marketing ideas to use.
Absolutely.
So the next one, and I'll let you got a story on this one, I believe. So number 4 is, oh man, people are not going to like this one, Jonathan. It's face-to-face.
Oh, face-to-face. That's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like, you got to leave your house.
Especially copywriters like yourself, right? That's.
Oh yeah. Or most internet marketers for that matter.
That's right. That's right.
You know,
they don't like to, what do they term it? Press the flesh,
yeah.
That's difficult, and it's
I hope we don't get an explicit rating for saying press the flesh.
As in a handshake, right?
Right. Handshake. Let's call it a handshake.
Yeah, we'll call it a handshake. But yeah, it's very uncomfortable for a lot of people, and not as much for myself because I come from a background in sales, and but for some people that are, like you said, prone to internet marketing, they would love to just keep their life behind the screen and the keyboard.
Yep.
And sometimes you can't do that if you're gaining, it really depends on what industry you're in. But I would say just about anybody at some point or another is going to, if you're marketing to a particular client base or a particular industry, at some point you are going to have to go face to face and sell yourself or your company or your product to that person. And, I was watching a movie this week. This is it's one of my all-time favorite movies. And I think we're going to cover a movie list on one of our next episodes.
Yes.
Movies and marketing or something like that.
Yeah.
Movies and persuasion.
Yes.
But there's a fantastic movie. If you've never seen it, it's called There Will Be Blood. Have you ever seen this one?
I have not, but man, that title is great.
Oh gosh, it's I want you to write this down, and you need to see it. But it's Daniel Day-Lewis, which he's a fan.
Yeah,
he's
like
a fantastic actor. And but it's all about the oil. He's an oil baron, and it's in like the late 1800s, and he becomes like this oil tycoon. I mean, he starts out simple beginnings, looking for oil.
He's not Getty. Is he Getty, or is he just a random oil guy, or is he J. Paul Getty, or?
No, he's just an oil. He fancies himself as just an oil man. That's what he says when he talks to people. I'm just a man. I'm just an oil man. And so, people would talk about him, and he would, people would come to their own conclusions throughout the movie. So what he would do is he would go into these towns and offer to lease the land from people, pay them a price to run his to drill on their land to see if he could prospect for oil.
Yep.
And he would pay them a percentage. And so obviously he was in it for himself. And so in order to sell them, he had to go meet these people face to face. and this was a big part of it. He said, you know, I understand what can be said, what people have said. You know, I'm an oil tycoon, and you know, I'm looking to you know, take advantage of you people, but I'm just an oil man. And so he would get in front of these people and, you know, make him present himself as nothing but a simple person trying to, you know, make an honest living, and also trying to help these people and benefit their community. But it was amazing what, you know, how he would do when he got face to face with a lot of these people. He would sit down and, you know, alleviate a lot of their concerns or their fears. Obviously he was doing it in a very dubious way, but it made me think, you know, you can kind of put to bed a lot of people's concerns about you when you simply get in front of them and talk to them face to face, and have a conversation with them. So sometimes that's the best marketing tool, is simply a face-to-face meeting where people can put a personality or a person to who they're thinking of. You know, sometimes when all you see is that personality online or what you hear about, sometimes that can be detrimental to you.
Yeah. And you know, if it's just still pictures or just text or whatever, you know, there's a lot of nuance that's left out. And, you know, some of your strongest traits, and especially for people who are a little, I think, shy and kind of reserved and want to hide behind the computer.
Yeah.
It's part of that is because you're not a boastful out there person.
Right.
And that's actually very comforting and very reassuring to a lot of potential clients, if you would just get in front of them and talk with them. And so a couple ways I think you can do that. You know, one way is actually just pick up the phone.
Yep.
So instead of doing your proposals like by email or going back and forth by email, if you'll just pick up the phone and have a conversation, most of your prospects are just regular people.
Right.
And you'll find that you could make a lot more headway and build a lot more rapport a lot faster. Especially if the conversation is kind of already started, and you say, hey, why don't we just talk? You got time for a quick call? We can jump on the call and just knock out some of these details, you know, and just keep it pretty cool. By the way, oh man, this is a cool segue. This is an online tactic and it's new.
Yep.
But there's some new software that you can plug into like LinkedIn. And see, if you listen to the whole podcast, I'm pulling up LinkedIn right now, but if you listen to the whole podcast without judging it by the title, you get these little extra tidbits when you listen to the whole thing. So there's this idea, oh man, what is this? Let me just find a connection real quick. Like if you want to message somebody on LinkedIn, now I can't find it. I'll have to find it in a note. But there's a plugin, basically like a Chrome browser plugin. Let's see, is this it? I think it's called Crystal. Yeah, it's called Crystal, like this.
Okay.
Ice crystals. And you hook your LinkedIn to it. And when you're trying to make a LinkedIn connection, it'll pop up on the side of your screen and it will tell you, it'll coach you in the conversation, because it will tell you what their personality profile is and whether you should be direct, whether you should be light, whether you should be funny.
Interesting.
And it kind of gives you examples of what you would say in the email, and it grades your email to tell you if you're on the right track or not.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's all AI stuff, so it's pretty cool stuff. But
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I just wrote this down, so I got to check this out.
Yeah, so it's called Crystal, and so for instance, like, and it's a paid service after a few, after you try it a few times, it's a paid service, but it'll hook to your Gmail, it'll hook to LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, your Google Calendar, things like that. So it's a pretty cool little tool that can help you. But my point there was, like, if you can always move the conversation to a more face-to-face conversation. And if you think about it, for years in marketing, everybody's been trying to get back to a face-to-face conversation.
Sure.
right? I mean, social media, email, we're always told, write like you talk.
Yeah.
Make your stuff sound authentic, like you're talking from one person to another.
Yep.
Well, you could just skip to talking one person to another, or just like go to the right to the end, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
So phone is one way. Another way is trade shows.
Yep.
This is where you get to get out in front of people.
Trade shows are amazing.
Yeah. If you know how to work a trade show, whether you have a booth or not, like it's a what we would say in the military, it's a target rich environment. Like, it's all your prospects there. And the same thing could be said for conferences. If you provide SEO or copywriting or building funnels or whatever for somebody, and you go to a conference full of marketers, and you're going in with the intention of meeting people and talking to people, and making an offer, and not just whatever that, like, and you're prepared for it and you've practiced a little bit. That's a great place to meet people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So face-to-face is not dead. It's underused, but it's certainly not dead.
And I'll throw in podcasting is a way to get face-to-face meetings, because a lot of people are afraid to go face-to-face because they think you're automatically the prospect or the person that you're targeting automatically thinks, well, you're just trying to sell to them.
Yeah.
But what I use, a lot of times what I use is podcast because I have an industry specific podcast that I reach out to potential clients and I say, I'd love to feature you on my podcast. Well, that gets a conversation started. So we talk usually a lot of times before the podcast. I pre-interview them and see if they're a candidate. And then we talk. And so I've automatically built the relationship prior to offering any of my services or offering to help them or sell to them, but establish that relationship. So I've given to them prior, but it's podcasting is a way to open up that face-to-face dialogue where you don't feel like you're automatically trying to sell to someone and they think you're giving tremendous value, which you are, because you're hosting them on your show.
Right.
And so that opens up the connection so that you can reach out to them, talk to them by phone, or a teleconference or through Zoom, like what we're doing right now through the podcast. And, you don't have to be there in person, but you can have a conference or a face-to-face interview with them, talk to them. And a lot of times that leads to more business for you. But you've used, a podcast is simply a tool to do that. And a lot of people don't realize that. They think, I start a podcast, and they don't really understand the hidden power behind a podcast. The podcast is just a tool. Sometimes it's a tool for you to reach out and connect with potential clients that you can deal with or that you can do business with. And that leads to a lot of face-to-face meetings. And a lot of times ends up being that turn into great business relationships down the road. So
that's a great point. That's a good kind of a blend of new school and old school. As opposed to, I think a lot of people would just think, well, podcasting, I'm just kind of creating content, but actually it's a, like you said, it's a great way to get in front of somebody that you want to get in front of, because you're giving them something they want.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. So my beer's getting low, so we got to speed this thing up. So, even though it doesn't taste good, I'm drinking it fast. Must be the 10%.
I think you're trying to get rid of that one pretty quick anyway. So
yeah, it must be the 10% alcohol kicking in. So 5 was space ads, 4 was face-to-face. Number 3 then is direct mail.
Okay, cool.
And we could talk about this a lot, and we're going to, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I was looking up some stats and found, as I was doing some research here, like direct mail is still very, very powerful, because it is no longer as crowded as your email inbox. It's actually less crowded now.
Right.
And, people are spending 20 plus hours just on business emails. So trying to get through that noise is tough. But
absolutely.
Over the last decade, I was looking up some statistics, and direct mail has declined in the number of pieces being sent over the last decade. Part of that is because of lists and some other things, but that means that there's more room in the mailbox, and it's easier for you to stand out. And here's what's crazy: 100 million adults made a catalog purchase, which is just one of the many types of direct mail. 100 million adults made a catalog purchase in 2016. So just 3 years ago. And right now, you're probably getting, if you're like me, like my family, the catalogs are rolling in.
Oh yeah.
They're out there. And, you could do a newsletter to your current prospect list. So this doesn't have to be, all these things we're talking about are not necessarily just for prospecting. These could also be customer retention, customer growth, cross sells, upsells, and all those things. So it doesn't have to be all about finding new customers. It's a great way to stay in front of existing customers as well.
Absolutely.
So here's another stat: 42% of people who get catalogs and direct mail read them. So that's about 4 times the open rate of an email.
That surprises me. Yeah.
I think, it's probably not a sit down and read every item. It's more of a flip through, kind of look at.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if something catches your attention, but that's your job as the person sending the mail to make sure it's interesting enough to look at. And direct mail response rates average 5.3%. compared to email and PPC marketing is 0.6%. So again, what's that? Almost, 10 times higher.
Sure.
8 to 10 times higher. And 70% of people think direct mail is more personalized than online interactions. So, overall, this article says overall the response rate is 10 to 30 times higher than the same effort on digital media. So direct mail,
love direct mail, and you could break, direct mail. It's such a broad topic. You could spend hours talking. We can get into lumpy mail. We could talk about,
packages,
personalized, packages. You could get I use a lot of, it falls in direct mail, a lot of personalized, cards, that go, because what I find is
we can actually jump to that. That's actually going to be our number one is handwritten notes.
Yep.
Which is basically a form of direct mail.
Absolutely.
Very specific, but let's talk about that real quick, and then we'll round out with the last one. So handwritten notes, man, way underused.
Yes.
And there's basically 3 that I think are really powerful. One is a thank you, either for making a purchase, meeting with you, whatever it might be. One is an introduction, like if you want to get on somebody's radar, you do a nice handwritten card. And then the third is kind of a nurture sequence, we might call it, an email, where it's if you see an article or you see something, you clip it out or you refer to it and you send a handwritten note, not just an email or a messenger or text or something like that. Like, hey, I was thinking about, saw this, thought of you, I took the time to stick it in the mail and send it to you. That there's a automatically people know that took more effort than just firing off an email.
Right.
So there's a higher value on it because people know that took more effort. You had to get a stamp. You had to put in the envelope. You had to lick the glue off the envelope, like all that stuff, right? And there's even tools that if you can't, I think you were going to talk about send out cards.
Yep. Use it. Love it. Because like I said, like you were getting to, if you don't have the time to sit down and lick stamps, and I know that, Joe Girard, we talked about him in the past. He's like considered, I think he's still in the Guinness Book of World Records for selling the most cars. Is one of the greatest car salesmen ever. But, you know, a guy that built his business based off of not, you know, basically just sending out greeting cards or sending out like handwritten notes to people. Yeah. And so he would, when he first got started, he would simply go through the phone book and just mail out cards to people and certain addresses that he didn't know. Yeah. Now, over time, he built a list of people that did business with him, so he would send them a card, whether it was the 4th of July, you know, that's pretty easy. But, yeah. You know, but then there are other holidays that are a little more obscure. You think of like, you know, President's Day or some other holiday that you would send out in a, you know, a card that was handwritten, and he would use that to, you know, really just build that relationship. People thought, you know, he's the only guy out there that I'm getting a handwritten note from. Right. No one else would do that. So he built a bond or a connection. So what I love about send out cards is I use that as a tool because I can get online and within about 2 minutes, I can put a personalized note together, send it out, and I have my address list on send out cards already built in. All of my clients are already in there. So all I have to do is fill out the card, type in the message, and I can use my own personalized handwritten font that yep. They have taken my handwritten font and they basically digitize it. So when I type out the message, it uses my font, and then put that on the card, click on the address, and in 2 minutes, it's done. Yeah. And it gets mailed out the next day. And they get it within about 2 or 3 days. So
well, I tell you what, you know, we've had several guests on the show, mm-hmm. and our last guest, Mike Capuzzi,
yep,
he did this. I don't know if you've gotten yours yet, but he sent a package and it had a handwritten note. I think it was actually probably a send out cards or a fulfillment house did it, but it was a nice little card. And then a sample of 2 of his books that he talked about on the Bite Size
cool.
on the show. So it all came in a nice box with a pen, a thank you note, and 2 books, and even had a little mini journal with it. Not to spoil the surprise for you, but a nice little book, you know, nice little box that probably cost him, you know, $5, $6, something like that. Yeah. Maybe as much as 10 with postage. I don't know, but here we are talking about it.
Absolutely.
On the show. And it's that kind of stuff. And it stood out because nobody else is doing that. Like we've had a couple other authors that have sent us their books. But this was a very intentional thank you package that he sent out. So, which gets me to our final point, which is kind of in the realm of face-to-face, but the final point was word of mouth.
Word of mouth. Yeah.
And
very
intentionally creating that. Like you can't. So one way to get word of mouth is just to make a really good product or have really good service so that people want to talk about it, or to do some of the other things we've talked about so that word of mouth happens, like we're talking about Mike. And other times word of mouth is you can kind of foster it in your clients and encourage them to share word of mouth by giving them tools. I mean, if you think about it, that's all an affiliate program is.
Yeah.
Is it's a way it gives people tools to talk about your business.
Yep.
On, you know, so Peloton, you know, we have the Peloton bike and they give us a referral code, which referrals is another old school tactic.
Right.
But they give us a referral code. So when I post a picture, you know, of me riding or, you know, say that I rode, I can drop the referral code in there and people get, you know, $250 off accessories or whatever the current promotion is. And then I get credit. I get like $100 credit as well. So
sure.
So you can foster the word of mouth with your clients.
Absolutely. Nothing sells better than when somebody else tells you about it, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
You hear it from the company, it's one thing, but you hear it from a satisfied customer or somebody that's used your product. Then, I mean, and that's why I think that's why radio advertising can be very effective, because some radio ads aren't that great. I hear, you know, I pay attention to a lot of ads on XM radio when I'm driving. and then some local ads. Some are not that great, but then there are some that, especially on a local level, that get, if you have a local endorsement for somebody that says, I've used this,
right,
that really gets your attention. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'll give an example. I've worked with, for this, my Composites weekly podcast that I host. I got a sponsor, last month that started a sponsorship with my, podcast. And I'm usually really kind of picky about, like, I won't take just anybody as a sponsor on my show there.
Right.
I want to make sure that it's something that I can endorse with some integrity. And so this is a company that makes, just to give you a really brief description, but they make these things the company's called Power Blanket. And they make these heaters that go around like 55-gallon drums and totes of material. And what it does is it keeps it at constant temperatures, through the winter. The winter time is like one of the most detrimental times for people that run, certain chemicals, because the cold weather can really affect things in your manufacturing process. So this company makes a heated blanket, or a kind of a wraparound to put around totes and heat, or 55-gallon drums, and even as small as a 5-gallon pail. And it keeps these materials at consistent temperatures even during the cold winter months, because a lot of these manufacturing plants don't have consistent, temperatures that need to be, like, they can't afford to heat their plant. Like, I mean, it's like
huge buildings.
Right.
Yeah. So there's gonna be cold pockets and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So when they reached out to me and they talked to me, I said, well, I can definitely get on board with a product like this, because when I used to, back when I was in, when I first got into manufacturing sales in composites, selling application equipment, I would have calls all the time from customers that would have problems with heating, with, as soon as it got cold, the temperature dropped, they would have all sorts of problems with viscosity issues and being able to spray their material and things like that. And I was like, well, I know exactly the reason. It's because it's gotten colder, Right. So I told, in interviewing this company, I said, one of the things that I can do to help you guys on my sponsorship is, when I read your promo, is I can share different stories, because I've got a ton of different stories when I used to sell application equipment, and share, like, how I would get calls personally, and people didn't know what the problem is until I explained to them, your material, your resin, or your gel coat, or your foam system, your material has gotten way too cold, and you have to keep it at consistent temperatures in order to be able to do that. So, so that's an example. So I used that. I said, I can tell a story using my word of mouth and my influence, and the influence through my podcast, and telling that story coming from me, given my experience, that's going to help you guys out tremendously. And there,
and as you were saying that, it just made me realize that that's all, influencer marketing that's so hot right now. That's all it is, right? It's word of mouth marketing.
Word of mouth. Yep.
Through Instagram or through Facebook, mostly Instagram, but it's or YouTube is a big influencer marketing thing. But so yeah, podcast, YouTube, and Instagram all use word of mouth for a lot of the sponsorship stuff. Yep. So old school and new school.
So we've given a list of old school stuff that can be used in
absolutely. Yeah, this is good. So I want to round out the episode real quick with some other things that came to mind that didn't make the cut for the show.
All right.
So one is just to tell stories, and we've talked about stories over and over.
Yeah.
But I actually read an article today that said marketers are not doing a very good job telling stories. It's a lot of listicle stuff in their content.
Right.
It's a lot of quick, punchy stuff, but there's not a good story arc being developed.
Right.
In most advertising and most content.
Right.
So I thought that was good. And then flyers, billboards, TV and radio, which we kind of talked about, white papers, where people can call in for them, or write in for them, or even, get them online. And then phone, we talked a little bit about, and then another one that if you go to Costco, you see all the time product demos.
Yes. Oh man.
You know,
I get you every time.
Yeah.
Especially this time of year.
Yeah. So product demos are another great tool. And if you can figure out how to do a product demo, even if you use online or new school techniques, most people are not doing product demos.
Sure.
You see a lot of software companies that do. They'll do a walkthrough of the software, things like that, and that's really powerful.
Yep.
So figure out how you can demonstrate, and I think that's why challenges are so hot online, is because it's kind of a demonstration,
right,
of your product or your expertise or something like that. So those are the things I had, and that episode went a little longer than I expected, but I think there's some good stuff in there, man.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess we'll wrap up and say, people, if you're looking for more information like this, if you want to hear more of our podcasts, if you're new to the show, you can find us over at persuasionbythepint.com. Check us out, or you can do a quick search on any of your podcast platforms, wherever fine podcasts are distributed. So, yes. Sean, it's been fun, man.
And YouTube, obviously, since we're live on YouTube.
And YouTube, yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.
Awesome. All right. So we are